Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modern Day Unicorns. I am your host, Abby McPherson, and today I have my brother, Mario. I haven't spoken to him in a very long time, so I'm super excited to catch up with him and learn more about him and his journey. Mario, welcome to Modern Day Unicorns. Please introduce yourself. Tell us about you.
Sure. Thank you, Abby. It's always good to be in your presence, even if it's from afar. And thank you for having me on your podcast. This is awesome. So, hey, everyone, my name is Mario Broussard, and I am a father, a psychotherapist, a public speaker, and I guess former educator. I mean, we can go on down the line, and I know we'll have time to talk about that, but it's just awesome to be here.
Awesome. Can you give us a little background on maybe like where you're from and what your where your roots are?
Yeah. So I'm a native of Columbus, Ohio. That's where I was born and raised in the Midwest. So I'm a Midwest kid and have for the last 10 years almost now lived in Maryland. And so my family has grown here. My career has grown here in Maryland. I guess Maryland is my home, and I don't plan on leaving for a while. I don't think, certainly not with this mortgage I have to pay.
Well, that's great. So I know you spoke about some of the various careers that you have been in, and we're going to get to that. But can you tell us what you're doing present day?
Sure. So I am the owner of my own private practice. I graduated from Howard University with a master's in social work and emphasis in clinical counseling. And so I went on to get my clinical license and open up my own practice. And so now I see couples, individuals. I do a lot of work with young people as well. And just around grief, around anxiety, issues with depression, and certainly premarital and then marital issues that couples may have. And so my life, my days are rarely the same. There's always some surprise waiting for me in my sessions, but I love it. And I love helping people. And I think that's really at the core of where what motivated me to go in that field. Yeah.
I want to thank you for the work that you've done and the things that you're doing to help people as well. It's super important, something that I am looking into moving forward as I approach another birthday. So, maybe I can you can share some resources or give me some resources offline to get that ball rolling.
Yeah, sure. Man, I think you'd be a great therapist. So, that.
I'll be like, I need therapy. I don't know about therapists right now.
Oh, you're going, okay, gotcha. Yeah, no. I think that we can all use a good therapist at any and every point of our lives, just for a check-in, just for personal growth. In fact, 2022, Abby, I'm looking for my own therapist, and I think it's just about time for me to get some things off my chest that I've been dealing with, and so I think it's a great option for just about everyone. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's dig into the various careers that you have had thus far. We spoke prior to us beginning today about how life just changes all the time. And, there's even data out there about how many times, especially like us, we just switch careers nowadays. Can you tell me what you went to school for?
Sure. So, yeah, my undergrad was done in psychology. And then, like I said, my master's was done at Howard University in social work. But before I had even attained a master's, I had already been in a number of different fields. And so, you can go ahead and pick one that you want to talk about.
Let's see. What are ones that I know? The ones that I'm most familiar with is that at one point in time, you were one of my pastors. But I believe you had a job before that. I don't even know what you were doing before that. But at one point in time, you were one of my pastors.
That's right. Yeah. So I came to Maryland because I got a call to be a chaplain for a high school. And in the middle of that chaplaincy role, the head pastor, Paul Graham, just approached me because he's connected to the school and everything, and was like, "Hey, I want to bring you onto my staff as an associate pastor at my church. And so we sat down and talked about it. And next thing you know, I'm up there and I'm your pastor, Abby. And so, yeah, but I've been speaking in church and publicly since I was 15 years old, and have done evangelistic series in parts of Africa, Kenya. And so I think that's and then my passion for people and to see people walk in their purpose and their calling just really kind of ushered me into these types of roles. But I hadn't even finished my master's in I hadn't even started pursuing my master's for that reason in social work when I was as a pastor in that role. So, yeah.
So let's talk about the transition from, what was your transition from in that particular role as a pastor? What did you do next before I got another calling to complete, your master's and to move into, social work?
Yeah. So what happened was, in the roles as a pastor and as a chaplain, I started, just meeting with the students at the school, the families at the church, and realizing that they were requesting and asking for counseling. They needed help. And I wasn't qualified to do anything much past listening and maybe giving some pastoral advice or, through scripture or through practical living. But I saw various clinical needs. And so I went and approached, some of the powers that be and said, hey, I think instead of pursuing a master's in divinity, I need to pursue a master's in counseling, because I believe these are where the needs are. I've been preaching since I was 15, so it's like I kind of got that part down. I feel like these are the needs that are in front of me. And it wasn't received the best. And so I had to make a tough decision, Abby, and decide that I'm going to drop some of the clout, some of the, fanfare, some of the influence, whatever it was at that time, and take my own road. And that led to me even having to pay for my own master's, because I just believed that was the next step. And it was a very hard step to take, because there were a lot of opportunities in that chaplaincy role and the pastoral role. But I just knew that I had to go where the need was and where I felt the need was. Yeah.
I mean, and that is so key. I've had many conversations to where we have to make the decision to not just do what people say we're good at and what people appreciate and celebrate us for, and be willing to go against the grain and even disappoint or confuse individuals because we have something else that we need to pursue. I mean, I've faced it my own self with my particular transition. People are like, but you're so good at what you do. And I'm just like, but there's more.
Right. Yeah.
There's more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that approached me in that transition, especially when they found out at the church that I was no longer going to be a pastor. Literally would come up to me, some of them, and say, you're making a mistake. You were supposed to be the next senior pastor. I mean, and then some, family looking at me like, hey, why aren't you getting your master's paid for? Just go do what they tell you to do, and then you'll be debt free, and I'm like, I got to follow the passion. When you said there's more, I was thinking like the more is that's what I'm passionate about. I got to follow what I'm passionate about. And so I did it, and it was very uncomfortable then, but shortly into that process, I knew that I had made the right choice.
So I don't know if I heard it somewhere, if it's something that, God just spoke to me in whatever season that I was in. But so many times, when you get that fork in the road, I'll call it counterfeit blessings, right? So there's been some times for me to where I really, really wanted something at one point in time, but something else came through that my heart was more like inclined to. So there was a time I moved to Texas on so my undergrad was sports entertainment and event management, and I jumped the gun and moved to Texas in hopes of getting a job with some people that I had it in good for, under the assumption that they were going to hire me almost straight away. 8 months went by, right? And then I spoke to my cousin, and she was just like, you should look into WAU for their master's program. And I was like, well, I don't want to go because I don't want to take another test. She's like, they don't require tests. And I was like, So I applied, I got in, and it must simultaneously. I got in, and then the job came through.
Tough.
So it was just like, hey, we're ready to hire you. And I'm just like, I just got into grad school and I'm going to go. So that was my counterfeit blessing moment, to where it's just like, what I actually wanted came through. I could actually do it. But it's just like, but there's something that I need to go see about over here.
Oh man, I know that probably made no sense to those around you. But you have really benefited from making that decision. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, okay. So so you did your social work. You were a pastor at some point in time. You saw a need when it came to, to counseling, and you wanted to seek out that opportunity, ended up paying for your own education. So with the spark that you had from being, in the trenches with other people, what helped you decide to give it all you had? Like, outside of, saying, cool, I'm going to turn down this, I have to go this way. What was your breaking point to say, like, I'm all in, let's do it?
Yeah. It was maybe partially motivated by the fact that, in between that time, I had started a family. So I got married. And then, just wanting to be able to find my niche and really be able to contribute to the household, but also make a difference. But the other thing, Abby, that I found, which I think is key for us when we're searching, is what type of the level of success that you have in the thing that you're pursuing. Sometimes the level of success is not a great indicator because maybe you're at the beginning or you're just starting, and it doesn't seem successful in the scope of maybe somebody else that you're watching who is clearly doing well. But other times I believe you have to measure success, by your own parameters, and so even though I didn't have that clinical degree and that background, when I was meeting in a pastoral role with those families and those young people, I noticed that they were listening. I noticed that it was helpful. I noticed that I felt fulfilled at the end of it. And so all of those were factors that kind of led me to say, hey, you know what? I got the preaching thing down, right? I'm successful in that as well. The ministering thing, but like this is something that I've seen a contrast of greater success and fulfillment. And so I was like, all right, I'm going for it. In fact, those jobs were the things I said earlier that really motivated me to do it, because I wanted to give back to those particular those particular groups of people. But it's so weird, Abby, that the very thing that motivated me to go and get the clinical degree were the very things that I had to give up in order to go get it. And so I've never ministered to those, in that way, to those particular groups of people, because I had to leave them behind to go and get what I was spurred on to get in the first place. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Have you had the opportunity to serve that particular church community again since, or is that something that you are still interested in?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that I've been called back a number of times since then, back to the school to speak, and then even to sit on panels that dealt with mental health and helping them tackle certain questions. And then I've found myself in a number of churches since then, being able to give back to different groups and even in that same congregation. But it took a while for that to all come around. And now even at the church that I'm currently a member of, I'm the director for counseling there. So it's really interesting. And that position, watch this, was created because they wanted me on staff in some way. So they're like, okay, well, let's tailor something to your niche so that you could be on our staff and contribute to our community in some way. And that, I mean, that is a dream come true to in terms of confirmation that you did the right thing, that I did the right thing.
And that's amazing because, definitely when they want you regardless of what you have to contribute. They will cater certain things to move stuff around, move money around, to be like, this is what's important to us, and we want you to fulfill that role. What I'm going to ask you is, in terms of counseling in general, and I think I fall in this category as well, that a lot of times we just want bits and pieces and band-aids and gauze to help us patch up the things that are really bothering us. We just want a sermon. We want some, a YouTube video. We want, a pick-me-up conversation. What would you say to those individuals who are continuing to just patch things up, and how could they pursue getting, because it's hard to say getting the help that they need, because a lot of people don't feel like they need the help, but being able to unpack the things necessary for them to, clear their mind, or be able to think clearly about what their next step or decision is, or healing from some traumatic experience in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what, Abby, so we're at the new year now, and everyone's thinking about how they can improve. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that when your mind heals, everything else follows. And so, the answer to the 20 pounds of weight loss that that person may want, may be on the other side of their emotional healing. Right. The courage that you want to interview for certain jobs, or to feel like you're not walking around all the time with imposter syndrome, might be found in the fact that we uncover some of the things that you went through as a child that would make you feel like you're not worthy. There are so many things. And so I think the patchwork has its place. We talk about terms like fight or flight. Fight or flight is a survival mentality. And in the midst of an emergency, you don't have time to sit and do deep work on what the problem is. You just got to get out of there. So I believe that there's something to the patchwork type things that we do, that you coined, or that you termed. But they're, I believe, supposed to get us to the place where we're able and willing to do the deep work. And so that deep work, like with a personal trainer, or with a physician, we don't really question, I'm just not able to lose this 20 pounds, so I'm going to get a personal trainer. They'll help me out. There's something to accountability. And I think it's no less in the realm of mental health. And I think people would be very surprised to know that most of the things that they want to accomplish are on the other side of mental and emotional healing. Yeah, I believe that.
Well, see, the elephant in the room when it comes to things like that is it's affordability.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you watch movies, or you see other people, or you hear about other folks. It's like, oh man, I've been in therapy for years and it costs X amount of dollars, or it's a part of my insurance, and things of that nature. To which, to be very frankly, that's been one of the main reasons why I haven't pursued it for myself. It is an expense. Right? Just like eating healthy is an expense. Getting a personal trainer is an expense. The stuff that, we really want to attain or reach the next level. Like, I've purchased a number of different courses lately to get specific or to improve on certain skills. And it is an expense. But therapy is not, it is an expense.
Yes, it is. Yes. So you know what? I really believe it's the astronomical expense that you see is a reflection of the world's priority when it comes to mental health, and their lack of understanding of how important it is, right? And so, the good thing is that you can find some therapists that do pro bono work. You find therapists that have sliding scales, and will bring that cost down. You have to do some digging. Unfortunately, even for me as a therapist, when I want to go and find one, it's going to take me a little while, because not all therapists are on the same page. Not everyone works for you. And then, like you said, that cost is a huge one. I think that I see myself in the future really advocating for better mental health coverage and availability. And I think that we're going to need it in the midst of this pandemic. And I don't know, we'll come out of a pandemic most likely, but I think that there are some lasting results that'll be here to stay in terms of how it impacts the social emotional needs of individuals. And so I believe that it's going to force our various governments' hands to do something about the affordability of mental health. Because you're right, it's ridiculous. It almost costs you some mental health thinking about mental health costs. So yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
And I completely agree in terms of I don't think we understand what is at bay in terms of all of the mental and emotional things that we haven't even processed yet from this pandemic. And I have the opportunity to kind of decompress, taking, not being in a school system right now, but my heart bleeds for the teachers and the students, even the parents who are still in the situation that they just kind of just have to go with the flow. But I mean, something has got to give when it comes to it, because there's many things that have to be processed. That, I mean, even the summertime, like I think I had made a video just being trying to assist teachers with thinking about what took place and how they can move forward. But the summertime, you being a former educator, the summer is like 3 snaps and you're back.
Oh man. Yeah. 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 By the time you pack everything out of the classroom, unload it, load it up, you're thinking about how you're going to have to decorate it for the next year or whatever the case is. Yeah, my heart really goes out to our teachers worldwide for sure. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for everything that you've shared thus far. And we were talking, even prior to, about how it is okay to change your mind, to make hard decisions, to switch careers, to appreciate the validation that you're getting from individuals, but respectfully decline, their offers, and being able to pursue the passions of your heart. Could you share maybe one of the things that you kind of had to overcome in order to say, no, I'm gonna go this way?
Yeah, I had to overcome, one of the things that I had to overcome was I guess the desire to please other people. That was a huge one, and I think we could sit here and talk about that a million times, and someone's still not. It's still not going to resonate with someone just how much influence others have over us. I literally had one of the greatest pastors that I know. Right before I was getting ready, no, right after I spoke at his church, I sat down. He leaned over after introducing me and telling people in the congregation that I was a therapist, leaned over and told me that I was in the wrong profession. And that I needed to switch back over and do theology. And then he even used my father, who he knew and mentored, as an example. My father chose not to be a pastor. And so he really kind of, I don't know that he was trying to be manipulative. I think he was just speaking from his heart, but he didn't realize the impact that he had on me and the war that I had with that after he told me that. But I had to realize that the door had opened for me to do what I was currently doing as a therapist. And I was seeing the success, and it made sense to me, and to my family. Everything started to flow. And whenever I would try to deviate from that, it just didn't flow. And so
Mm,
the approval of others is wishy-washy. And so you have to be able to put the bridle on, so to speak, and have that tunnel vision and say, this is where I'm seeing the green lights. This is where the green light and my passion meets. And this is what I'm going to go for. Yeah.
nice. Now, before we wrap up, I would like to ask you, as you told us that you now own your own practice, if I'm correct. What were some of the steps that you had to make in order to, be in business for yourself? And I guess you would consider yourself also an entrepreneur as a business owner, but what were some of the things that you had to do to, be self-employed?
Yeah. So, in my field, I had to make sure that I had the proper licensure. And so since then, they've kind of opened up and allowed for individuals who have a more standard licensure to be supervised by individuals who have a clinical licensure. But I needed my clinical licensure. And then I just went in and, started an LLC. My practice is called Fresh Start Counseling. And so I started that up. And currently, instead of just seeing my own clients that I get through insurance, I actually have contracted myself out through my company to a group practice. And so that has really made it easy, a lot easier. They give me clients. All I have to do is worry about some of the paperwork of treatment plans and seeing the clients. But I do have aspirations to start my own group practice, to have other therapists work for my group practice, and then it has more of a passive income. But right now I'm just self-employed. But I mean, it has been a blessing. I've been able to stay home with both of my children, and raise them and see them. My daughter's 5 months old and my son is 5 years old. And so,
That time is flying.
yeah, it is. And so that has been the blessing. Abby, talking about switching careers really quickly. I didn't switch a career, but I took a job as a associate clinical director, and it was going to pay me a bunch of money. And I thought it would be a great step. This is like 2 months ago. I got 2 weeks into the position and I realized, here we go again, that it just did not fit. My life, my children, my wife, everything about my life was saying, don't deviate from what you were doing. It's not time yet. And so I let go of that position and all of that money to come back home and see my clients via telehealth. But I'm loving it. I love it. And I get to see my children more than twice in a day. And so I just want to speak to somebody right now. You really have to be able to assess your circumstances and say, what is my life making room for? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? And how does what I aspire to do fit what's going on right now in my life? Yeah.
And that is key. And I wanna bring something else up that you said in terms of being a business owner. Business owners contract themselves out to other businesses all the time. Just because you work for yourself doesn't mean you have to work for yourself. Getting that contract from another company to where you're offering your services and they have the same services, but they have a larger clientele is practical. It makes sense. You don't have to hustle so hard. So if you look around and see that your services, match up with another one, it's no harm in making a connection, because what if they're overflowing, right? And they can use your assistance and, maybe they'll pay you more than you're paying yourself. Business owners actually make less money because they are trying to sustain the business.
That's right. Great. That's great perspective.
Another thing that you were saying, I had this conversation just yesterday with another friend of mine who was being offered an opportunity to make a bunch of money working for a company. And she's on that tightrope between like, do I do it or do I not do it? Like, the money sounds great, the opportunity is technically what I'm doing, but does it align with what I have going on? And I think one of the ways that people get, pushed into a corner is that we don't have many opportunities or the courage to say, I can't do this. Right? So if from what I understand, you accepted the position, tried it out for 2 weeks and said, I can't do it.
That's it.
But people get in there and be like, I gotta push through it. I gotta push through it. I gotta push through it, which is one of the reasons why I appreciate contract work. So like being an educator abroad, understanding like, okay, if I sign up for this, I'm signing up for this for 2 years. Cool, right? But there are certain ways to get out of things if you need to. But that goes to say what the other thing about the expectations of people, right? Oh, they're going to think bad of me, or oh, they're going to give me a bad recommendation. You hadn't worked for them long enough to have a recommendation, but you had, the smarts enough to be like, this is not what I need to do right now, and I need to go. So I want to encourage people that, when you have that opportunity to assess it and to leave before it gets bad, or to leave before you're in a more complicated situation, or you then took that bonus and bought your Porsche.
Right. Oh man, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. And in that situation, when I left, the job was also not exactly what they had advertised it to be. Right. So I had incentive to leave also because I didn't really have a passion. They kind of flipped the script on me, and I didn't really have a passion for what they were asking me to do once I got in there. And they were extremely apologetic about the description not meeting the actuality. But I said, hey, I accept your apology, but I have to get out of there because now I'm not seeing my children and I'm not doing what I'm passionate about. And 2 weeks was about all I could do that for. So
that's probably the best 2 weeks notice I've ever seen.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I would love for you to share 3 tips that you have for our listeners today, just to help encourage them with life, or, help them create a format for how to make tough decisions in the future. Whatever's on your heart, please share that with us.
Yeah. Abby, the first one is to, when you have decisions to make, when you're trying to figure out what's going on, this isn't rocket science, but it's not something that we practice very often. I would suggest that you make sure each day that you have some time in silence, and possibly reading or journaling about how you're feeling or what you're thinking, because it's the noise of life that keeps us distracted from really being able to focus on what it is that's important for us. In fact, I believe that one of our coping mechanisms as a society, as a global society, for those of us who have access to internet and all this other stuff, is that we've kind of leaned on the crutch of being busy, of fidgeting with our phones and things like that. And because it allows us not to think very deeply. But we have to go past surface thinking when we're talking about major life decisions. And so I think we need some time in silence. I wasn't going to say that at first, but I believe that it's pulling on me. We need some time to really be able to sit down in silence and strategize, right? And ask ourselves, where is our heart in this, and what is motivating us? The second thing, is to discover, to be who you are authentically, be yourself authentically. There is a market. I tell people this all the time. There is a market for you being you. In a world where we get to put on different masks and hats via social media and different, we get to let people see what we want them to see. I find that the people who are the most successful in their fields are who they are. They've accepted who they are, and everyone else will accept who you are when you accept who you are. And this is not just fluff. I'm living it. I'm coming out of a stage of inauthenticity. I've always strived to be open, honest with myself and with others. But sometimes, if I'm honest, you kind of tailor yourself in hopes that you would market yourself to a different crowd or whatever. But I'm realizing that the more I allow myself to be seen for who I am and for what I'm passionate about, the more I attract. There is a market for you being you. So be authentic. So be reflective, be authentic. And the third one is to be courageous. Just go and do it. I know that whatever the it is that you're hearing me tell you to go and do is not as easy as it is for me to tell you to do it. But you already know what life is like on the side of doing nothing in that area. Don't you want to know what life is like on the other side of pursuing it? And we develop regrets by not trying, by not pursuing. We rarely develop regrets when we try and pursue, because when we put everything into it, we can sleep at night if it doesn't work out. But if we don't know what's on the other side of that, whether we can be successful or would be successful, that's when you develop regrets. And then that's when you got to come see me for some therapy. So do some preventative work, right? And just go and be courageous and try it out. Failure is not trying. Failure is not what we often perceive it to be. If you don't make it, you don't make it. But at least you tried.
I believe it was Jim Carrey's father that said, I failed at doing something that I hate. So what's the harm in doing something that I love?
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
If you literally, if you can fail at doing something that you hate, you might as well fail doing something that you love. And then, you hear the other things talking about if you're going to fail, do it quickly.
Right.
At least you can pivot.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
Mercy. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to be able to chat with you. I would really like for you to share with our audience the places that they can follow and support, or even contact you for resources, or what have you. Where can we get that information?
Yeah, sure. So right now the easiest way for you to keep in touch with me, and I'm working on some other ways, but it's just through Instagram. If you have a an IG page. Most of us do. It's just going to simply be Mario Broussard II. So, you'll have my name on this podcast, so you'll be able to see it's Mario Broussard II. And hey, I check it often enough to respond, to follow, to answer your DMs or whatnot. And I think that's going to be the best way to get a hold of me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we look forward to hearing more wonderful things and getting more information about you and the different things that we can do to improve our mental health and stability. I wish you all the best. To all the people who are listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us thus far. If you are a unicorn, anybody else that is a unicorn, I'd love to have a conversation with them. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and to share this information with somebody that you feel it would be helpful for. And until next time, we will see you.